Okay, let's revert this file back to the way it was when it's opened. You can do that by going to the File menu, choosing Revert. Most of the time I would press F12 on the keyboard, which is listed there. So we'll choose Revert, which takes the file back to its very dull, unedited appearance. And let's just go back to the beginning for a minute and discuss what actually happens when we reassign values using the Levels palette. And this is very rarely explained properly or discussed anywhere, but let's just open the Levels dialog box again. Now then, if I were to take this highlight slider and correct my endpoints and move this to where the information starts, as is explained in almost every book or every magazine, tutorial or internet example which is explained to do this, nobody ever says what's going on really or why. What we're doing by doing that is we're reassigning the brightest point in this image after we've made this adjustment, and once I've clicked OK, we're reassigning the tone in this image at that point to 255, and as we know 255 is pure white with no information. So let's just have a look at this in a bit more detail. If I hold down the Alt key and we look at the brightest parts of this image, which are showing up as being some of the highlights around the teepee or the snow in the foreground there, I'm just going to shift click and place a color marker down there. And what we're saying is what was 216 is becoming, and as you can see, 250, 253, 252. And believe me, that's no information on the print. That may well read, as well read 255. What we're saying that if we make this adjustment, we are now reassigning this value here, which was at 216, 218 and 217 here. After we click OK, we're reassigning the value to be virtually, well, it will be pure white. Just bear in mind and be aware that that is exactly what's happening when you do this. Now, of course, there are other ways of doing this. I'm going to hold down the Alt key, and if you watch the cancel button, with the Alt key held down, it changes to reset. So I'll do that. I'll reset the file. We can use these color markers, not color markers, color eyedropper sampler tools, if you like. Now, this is for the whites, this is for the midtones, gamma information, and this is for the black. And I could simply take this, and by using that and clicking on any point in the image, that will then reassign the point I click on to 255. Before I do that, let me just shift click and put a point on the sky there, and you can see this point is 209 up to 214. But using the, not the grey, not the black, but the white color indicator, color sampler there, I'll click at that point, and as you can see, voila, that point there, which was 209, now becomes 255 in all channels. And that's the danger of using these. It's okay to use these as long as you know exactly what's going on and exactly what they're doing. If you use this, you'll assign any point you click on to be 255 pure white. Again, I'll just hold down the Alt key and hit the reset button and show you that if I use the black points, now obviously I would click on something black and that would set that value to 0. Let me hold the shift key down and place a color marker there. So we're looking at marker number 3. This value is 36 roughly. If I take the black point marker and click, then that value at that point becomes 0, because that's what this method does. We can adjust these in a moment, as I'll explain. Again, let me just hold the Alt key down and reset this palette. And to prove the point here, I could use this black marker to click at this location, marker number 2, and what was 209, I mean, it would be a stupid thing to do, but it does prove the point. I could set that to black. So what was 209 becomes 000. So that's what these markers do. That's what these sample tools do. Again, I'll hold down the Alt key and hit the reset button. And let me just click cancel out of here. And Let me just clear these points here, which I can do by clearing this button. So let me just go back again into levels, and if you do want to use these for this purpose, then we need to limit them in some way to their highest or lowest values, and you can do that by double clicking on the tool. And we can say that when we use this tool, instead of reassigning a value of 245, we can make its limits, and I would go for 240, 245, 240 to be safe, and click OK. So you can see that this, what you can see in the indicator here, it's not quite pure white. I'll click OK. And if you wanted to do the same things with your blacks, although I don't see the point really, I mean a black should be black and it should always be black, but you could double click and you could adjust those values for anything other than 0, 0, 0, 10 or 15 if that's what you have in mind. I won't do that now. So now if I use this color marker tool and click with it, you'll see the point. Sorry, let me just Alt reset. Let me put a color marker down just to have a look. So what was 208 through to 213, if I use this white point and click, you can see that we've set that point there to 255. Now that's a mistake, that shouldn't have happened, and let's have a look what's gone wrong there. That should have recorded those values I set earlier at 240 throughout. So let's try that again. There we go, 240 throughout. That's what I expected to see happen. So we're reassigning the white value to its maximum upper limit of 240 in all three channels. There's a little bit more information there for you, and I hope that makes sense. I personally wouldn't recommend using these as a method. I would adjust these endpoint sliders and the gamma slider while watching these values here, so you can do it much more interactively and know exactly why you're doing what you're doing at a particular time, at any particular point with a particular image. Hope that makes sense.